In this segment, we're going to talk about editing nodes. And nodes are the points that we put in or the software puts in that helps create our shapes. So first of all, the Edit Nodes tool is found here on the left-hand toolbar, and it says Edit Shape Nodes. So I'll turn that on. Now, perhaps what I'll do is just simply get a little bit closer to this sort of fancy shape that I had created in the previous segment, and I'm going to click on it, which will uncover all of the nodes. Now, you can see these nodes. They're here and they're white, and if I get in a little bit closer, we can see certain things about them. Now, I guess the first thing is, it's very easy. Maybe I'll zoom in very closely. You can actually select a node just by clicking on it, and it becomes highlighted. And notice when I clicked on it, it got sort of a big blue circle in the center of it. Okay, so that's how I know that I have that node selected. Now, you'll notice when I selected this node that it actually uncovered the arrows that were used to help with creating that shape, and so I can therefore move those arrows to be anywhere I want to therefore adjust the shape of that node or that line. I can also click right on that node and move just that one node to wherever I would like to. If I wanted to, I could add a node anywhere along the line. So basically, you can see here that as I put my mouse along the pink line, I can therefore right-click at any point along that line and choose to add a node. And so it adds an additional shape node right there, which I can then also use these arrows to control the shapes of my lines. So you can add nodes, you can select on a node, and then right-click and choose to delete that node. So you can remove nodes, you can add additional nodes or new nodes to a shape. You can select on your node and then change the shape of the handles if you want to. You can also select multiple nodes. So for example, if I choose Edit Nodes, click on the shape, and now what I'm going to do is left-click and drag, and my box that I'm creating is covering two nodes. And so now I have not one node selected, but two nodes. And for example, if I just click and drag, I can move both of those nodes at the same time. So let's see, what else can I do with nodes? Under node editing, I'm going to attempt to show this now. Maybe I've got some, let's see here. This node, when the node is round, I know that it's a normal sort of smooth line node. But if I get, for example, this one here is a square. And when they're the square, generally they're going to be curved coming out one side and sort of straight coming out the other side. And so, for example, while I'm on this square node, if I right-click, I could choose to smooth that node, which would make it a round node, and therefore makes it sort of smooth on both sides. And the adverse could be said, I could select this round node, right-click over top of it, and choose to make it a cusp node. And a cusp node generally means that it's going to have a curved side on one side, but it's going to have a smooth side on the other side. So in this case, let's see if I zoom out. So what we've got here is the cusp, or the sort of straight side. So you kind of have a short arrow on one side and a long arrow on the other side. So there's you can convert nodes from a square or a cusp node and then right-click over it and change it back to a smooth node, or the opposite can be done if you come into any smooth node and right-click on top of it. We can convert that to a cusp node, and we can also convert them to be a line. So these are, even though it's a cusp, it still has a curve involved. If I actually just wanted these all to be like straight corners, I could right-click over that node, and instead of changing it to smooth or cusp, I could change it to line, and therefore it gets rid of those triangles altogether. And so I could select on this one and say to line, and it gives me an actual corner point. So that's the ability to change the types of nodes. Like I said before, you can select on a node and you can move a node. You can adjust the shape of the node by adjusting the angles. They're the triangles that come out of those nodes. You can add a node to the shape just by simply putting your mouse along the line, right-clicking and choosing to add a node. So there's several different things we can do when it comes down to editing nodes. But there's more. So let me think about this for a second now. I'm going to left-click on select just to let go of this object. And for example, over here I have, this is a line or an object that I created, and this is an object I created. And if I wanted to, I could actually join these two. So the first thing I'm going to do is just hold my control key down and click on the second one. So basically I have two objects selected, and I'm going to right click over top and I'm going to ask it to combine. So now those two objects became one object. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and choose the node editor, edit shape nodes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a box to select that node and this node. So here we have an ending node and a beginning node, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to ask it to join those two nodes. And so what it did was it basically connected those two nodes to be one. And I could do the same thing again with these two ends, just right clicking, or sorry, left clicking and drag to create a box to select both of those nodes, and then right clicking on top and say join nodes, and I've basically now created a closed shape. And of course, like anything, I could right click on the line and say add a node here, and maybe this one I want to smooth it, so I'll right click over top of that one and say smooth this node, and I can just play with my angles to get the shape however I want it. The other thing I can do is, because they were outlines, there's no fill, but the shape is now a closed shape, and so I could add a fill to it just by coming over to any color in the color palette, left click on the bottom of the purple, and it fills it in with purple. So that's a little bit about node editing, and again, I may or may not have covered absolutely everything. I'm just looking at my notes, select multiple nodes, edit the handles, join the nodes, cusp line. Basically, if you choose the help tool and then select on the edit nodes, you'll see that there's actually instructions for all of these different functions within the node editor. And I think I've shown most of these. What is a node, cusp nodes, smooth nodes, curved nodes, how to edit nodes, selecting nodes. I think we went through most of this, but basically learning to edit nodes becomes very important, especially as you move forward and you start doing some automatic designing where the software is creating the embroidery from your artwork for you, but then you may want to take some control over that and basically modify to achieve perfect sewing results. And so learning to reshape and move nodes is very important. And so yeah, between learning how to create the shapes and learning how to edit the nodes, you can probably just about create anything that you want using those two tools. So yeah, that's a little bit more about the Edit Shape Nodes tool.